Can somebody play cartels?
You know my style.
Sometimes you play, sometimes you. Sometimes ding. Can you play like just continuous? Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Yasha Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadhari Jaya Giri Varadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadhari Jaya Giri Varadhari Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Jagana Jaya Baladev Jaya Subhadra Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Prabhupada Jaya Srila Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Pari Rajakacharya Shtota Satyashish Bhaktivedanta Goswami Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi, Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Dayam Mudirayet Nasta Prayeshu Abhatreshu Nityang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhavati Bhakti Naishna Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 14, The Forest of Enjoyment. Text number 23. It's again in prose, so I will just read it and then we can go word by word and hear the translation. Atacha tasma dubhayatapi karmasminnatmana sangsaravapanam udarahanti. Ata, now, cha, and, tasmat, because of this, ubhayatapi, both in this life and in the next. He, undoubtedly, karma, fruitive activities, asmin, on this path of sense enjoyment, atmanaha, of the living entity, sangsara, of material life, avapanam, the cultivation ground or source, udaharanti, the authorities of the Vedas say. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Learned scholars and transcendentalists therefore condemn the materialistic path of fruitive activity because it is the original source and the breeding ground of material miseries both in this life and in the next. Purport. Not knowing the value of life, karmis create situations whereby they suffer in this life and the next. Unfortunately, karmis are very much attached to material sense gratification and they cannot appreciate the miserable condition of material life, neither in this life nor in the next. Therefore, the Vedas enjoin that one should awaken to spiritual consciousness and utilize all his activities to attain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord says himself in Bhagavad Gita 9:27, Yat karoshi yadashnasi yachchuhoshi dadasi yat yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. The results of all one's activities should be utilized not for sense gratification, but for the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord gives all information in Bhagavad Gita about the aim of life, and at the end of Bhagavad Gita he demands surrender unto him. People do not generally like this demand, but one who cultivates spiritual knowledge for many births eventually surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Lord. Bahunam chanmanamante jnanamam prapadyate. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitang Tang Sachivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Shivaram Swaminiti Namine. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. We will read once more the verse. Learned scholars and transcendentalists therefore condemn the materialistic path of fruitive activity because it is the original source and the breeding ground of material miseries both in this life and in the next. So we're still in this chapter of the forest of enjoyment. Can you understand or? Poquito. I mean, maybe. Yeah. 50-50.
Nice. 50-50. I'm not on this.
Hare Krishna. Try to listen with the heart and hear Krishna. Anyway, what I say will not be so important, but what Krishna says in the heart might change something in your life. But this chapter is describing how this world is actually binding us in so many ways. And we have heard many very graphic examples also before, where the family has been described, for example, as jackals and foxes stealing away one's profits attained in the life. And now I think it's going to be a little bit of a shift towards more general kind of descriptions, although not really. The topic will continue for some more verses for sure. But here especially we can see that it is pointed out how the fruitive path is very much the problem and the source of all misery. Fruitive path means performing activities in this world, karma, and becoming bound by these activities. And there's many verses also in Bhagavad Gita that explain this. One of them is saying, Yehi samsparsha cha bhokha dukam yonaya evate adyantavanta konte yana teshu ramate buddha. Where it is said that the source, the yoni of all misery is the tendency of the senses to become attached to sense objects. Samsparsha cha bhokha. So from samsparsha cha comes enjoyment. From the sparshas, when the sparshas come in contact, the senses with the sense objects, then born is ja bhoga, enjoyment, so called. But actually this is just the source of dukkha. And why is it so? Why is it the source of dukkha? Because it has an end, a beginning and an end. It starts and then it ends again. And as we know, as spirit souls, we're eternally full of bliss. So for us, it is not very satisfying to have something that is temporary happiness. And that's why Vishaya, the sense objects, they are connected to the word Visha. We heard this in another class just recently, I think. Somebody said, I think Tarapu. You remember what Visha means? Visha, the Sanskrit word Visha. Visha. That's Vishaya. Vishaya. And the Vishayi is one who is after sense objects. But the literal meaning of Visha is poison. So the Sanskrit is very graphic also in this way, pointing out that Vishaya, sense enjoyment, is actually poisonous, simply said. And I'm just coming back from a place where this mentality of sense enjoyment was very prevalent. Any of you have been to some open air festival, some music festival? Never? Never? No. Wow, in 70, how many years? 75 years not been to, so we need to go. Didn't really? Really? No. Open air Sankala and these things? Oh, wow. Rock festival. And who else has been? You've been both as guests. Even you. Really. You see, that's how the young generation is sucked in these things already. But I also been as a guest before I was a devotee. But this time it was really, I never seen a place like that. You know, it's again a different level. There's different kind of festivals. I've been to some psychedelic trance Goa techno festival in Germany. And 8,000 people assembled there with what goal? To enjoy the senses. And I mean, you know, if you want to see like how much you can try to enjoy the senses, then that's the place where you can see, because people are just going crazy. It's una locura, no? To see that happening. So it's like you can imagine there's a space where everybody's living. That's where they put up their tents and their vans, and then there is a stage where there's music going on. Now the music also is very like, you know, all the time it's just and then and then the psychedelic thing that, you know, so your mind is really kind of automatically tuning in that kind of mode. So that's the kind of setting there is. Everybody's there to enjoy the senses. They put up their tents, and then there's like mostly groups of people. They're sitting together, and the whole day, what do? Nothing else but drink alcohol and taking drugs. And do they take 1 or 2 beers? No, it's many beers. Do they take just 1 joint of marijuana? No, many. And even with drugs that are very strong, you know, they last for hours and hours on end, they will take 2, 3 all the time. They will always take more than just one, you know, trip, whatever. They will be so drugged out, they don't even remember. You know, sometimes I asked somebody, like, what did you actually take? And they will just tell you, well, they have to think a lot, you know, in one day. So I took some LSD, then some MDMA, and some ketamine, and, you know, just things that you don't even mention actually on the Vyasa-san, so I'm sorry about that. But just to make this point that these people, they really max it out. They really try to max out the sense gratification, max out the experience, the juice. They want to get some juice, right? Everybody's after some deep experience that change their lives, that make them feel happy. I had this one discussion which was interesting with one guy, and he said, in these 2 days, so many things happened, and so many memorable experiences happened. I will have to take 2 weeks just to, digest and process this. And then I was reflecting, I said, yeah, it's interesting, right? Because we live our lives, and we don't remember so much often. We just live, day-to-day life, and nothing really happens in one sense. So many things happen, but nothing that really touches us, really. And then we come to the festival, and so many impulses, so many impetuses come, so many experiences. What does that show? Basically, that our normal lives are just not really, they're not really, they don't give us any juice, they don't give us any experience, they don't give us inspiration, and therefore we need to go to these places to max it out, because otherwise we feel not even really alive. And in one sense, you can see that these people, they're very open-hearted, they're looking for something spiritual often, they're kind of spiritual in some way or other. They want, to go into that, so they're looking for this, and they create an atmosphere, because everybody is very happy, everybody's on drugs also, materially happy. Then everybody will always smile at you, they will be easygoing, mostly. And that's also an experience that they seek so much, to have this interaction on a level where it's not just, transactional so much on money base or this and that, but where you can just be friendly with each other, where everybody's accepting you as you are, with all the things.
As you are.
As you are on drugs. That's how they feel, no? That it's such a nice environment, because it's just about being happy. No duties, no responsibilities. And so also, of course, the outcome of that is very, very bad. Like, if you leave the place, it just looks like a tornado has gone through. Maybe you've seen pictures also. It's always a big issue. People just drop everything that they brought there. Like, once we had a festival in our place, where I grew up, it's like on the countryside, 3,000 people living there. And somehow they had the idea to have a big festival. AC/DC came. It's like big. Was it AC/DC or Metallica? I don't even remember. Something like a big rock band, Yes, so all the metalheads, they converged. And it was raining a week before and during the festival also. So it looked like a war zone, There was like mud everywhere in the streets of the little village. People had to walk through to go to the buses and stuff. It was just full of dirt. But then also the actual camping ground, I was like maybe, 15, a little younger maybe, like Makar. And I just went there and I was like, what's wrong with people that they just leave everything behind? There's like, a whole huge field with just tents and chairs and even sofas, couches, whatever. They just leave everything behind. So it just goes to show that, it's a very, very temporary thing. And people, they're hankering for this. But then, actually, if you think about it a little bit from a sober perspective, it is literal poison. This vishaya, this trying to enjoy the senses. In this case of, also drugs and things, it's actual poison. They take alcohol, which is strongly destroying your organs. Also, one time at this festival, I met one person and he was like really high. He took 3 books. He was happy. But he said, he's not feeling so well because he has stomach pain for 2 days already, and he needs to take some medicine, and it's because of all the drugs he's taking. He knows it, but he still was high, and he was just going back to take some medicine, then that he can take some more afterwards, more drugs, like that. So people, they actually are aware of it also, but still they do it. So that's how it's described. How there's different kinds of enjoyment, right? In the mode of ignorance, and then in Rajagun and in Sattvagun. And in the mode of ignorance, it's poison in the beginning and poison in the end. And then for Rajagun, it's happiness in the beginning and then poison in the end, and sattva guna is both. It's actually poison in the beginning, but happiness in the end, right? So that's what we understand to be happiness in a sattvic mode, that you take some austerity and it takes some time, but then the happiness you feel is longer lasting. So, but anyway, the result of all this is a lot of garbage laying around. It's also afterwards, many people, they drive away from this festival. They bring their cars and they drive after. And it's a huge problem, obviously, because most of them, they're either still on drugs or they have a lot of drugs in their blood and are still influenced on that. So this time, what I saw is that the police was there, just outside of the camp, They had because we also driving, Manu and me were driving back. So there's I don't know how many, maybe 4 or 5 police cars and 20 officers. And they take out every car that goes through and test them on everything. It's and when we left, it's also funny. We left, and then there's one guy there from the festival, and he's coming to us. So, okay, you're going, and he's visibly nervous, and he's saying, so up there, there's the police. If they want to do a test, don't do any test. Don't do any test. You can just say you don't want to do it, and just try to be normal. They kind of try to make sure that they don't get a bad name for what's happening. Anyway. They take out everybody, but when we went through, we had one woman police officer, and she was checking our documents, and I told them, we're just monks, we just came here to distribute books, we try to uplift this whole festival, actually. And she was like, yeah, I'm not sure, and then I said, no, really, madam, and we have to go to Switzerland, so I would really appreciate if we can just go. And then she said, okay, she looked me deep in the eyes. I said, okay. And she said, they're okay. She said to the other police officer, and they were like, what? Why? What? What's happening? And one of them said, the only truth, how did he say in German? He said, the only thing we can trust is the test. They wanted to do a test. But she said, no, I know that they're okay. And then, really? And, the others, they were kind of, but we went through. So anyway, that point, so imagine you've been at this festival for 4 days, you've taken a lot of drugs, so first of all, your body will be totally depleted of all, what's that, serotonin or whatever, right? So these drugs, what they do is they boost the serotonin, but then, of course, the storage where this comes from, it's depleted, there's nothing left. So what is the consequence? You feel very, very bad. You go up very high, but then you come down very, very low. And that's why so many, they get hooked on drugs, because they need, again, more drugs to be happy again. So that's the vicious cycle. So anyway, that's what happens. After the festival, you just destroyed your body, you destroyed your mind, and you're just in a state of total exhaustion, and you have to go back to work. So all these people, they're like, walking off like zombies. So that's the actual enjoyment in this material world in extreme form, but we can see in general that's what's happening. So that's why it is the breeding ground of material miseries, and we have to do something about that. How can we attain real happiness? Prabhupada describes here, he quotes this verse, Sergei Prabhu, which verse? Bhagavad Gita 9:27. How? Beautiful, beautiful. So, it speaks about, Krishna says here that we should just, whatever we do it for Krishna. This is how we can attain real happiness. And so as devotees, that's what we do. We try to purify our existence. That's how it's described. Rishabdev, he has said earlier on in this canto that Tapo divyam putrakam yena sattvam shudyet, that to his sons he's telling them, perform tapo divyam, transcendental spiritual austerity. Austerity, what's the definition of austerity? Makar? How would you say, what is austerity? You know what the word means, or? Tapasya? What is tapasya? Yeah, very nice, yeah. So that's how Prabhupada defines it often. He says that It's willingly accepting difficulties, even miseries, in order to advance in spiritual life. So that's the goal of austerity. It's not to attain something material, but to advance in spiritual life. And that's what devotees try to do. That's what our activities are also based on, especially when we're in the brahmachari ashram, in the renounced ashrams. And that's also means for temple devotees. We should be willingly accept difficulties. Living in the ashram, sometimes it's automatically like that. You have to get up 4 o'clock in the morning. If you're grihasta outside, there's a little bit more, you have a little bit more space and nobody's waking you up. And here, though, we should really have that focus. Okay, what does Prabhupada want us to do? Get up 4 o'clock, do the morning program, chant 16 rounds, do service all day. Be absorbed in these activities in order to learn to control the mind. And learn to, on this basis, then serve Krishna with a clear focus and consciousness. And that's basically what is the goal of Krishna consciousness and of attaining actual happiness. And Prabhupada says that, that's what Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita, and at the end he says, surrender to me. That's the main point, right? That we learn to surrender. That's actually what sadhana bhakti is meant to do. Sadhana bhakti is helping us to surrender to Krishna. All we do, all the practice that we do, is to let go of our own, motivations and come in line with the will of Krishna. And it is very beautiful to see if somebody has achieved that kind of state, where there is no attachment to the senses anymore, but where everything is directed to Krishna. Right? We know this verse also from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anasaktasya Vishayan, Yuttaram Upayunjata. How's it go? Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagyam Uchate. So that's the definition of Yukta Vairagya. So there's Vairagya. Vairagya means detachment. And then there's Yukta. Yukta means to connect, right? Like it comes from yog, like yuch, yog, to connect. So we connect our Vairagya to Krishna. But first, before we do Yukta Vairagya, first is Anasaktasya Vishayan. So because, sometimes devotees are quick. Okay, this is Yukta Vairagya. What I'm doing, I'm using this and this in Krishna service. But it's first of all, there is Anasaktasya Vishayan. It's in this verse said like this, that we become detached from sense objects. Because otherwise, if we carry that attachment still in us, we will use our attachments in the name of service of Krishna. Maybe you have seen that, no? Yeah. Maybe. I think it's something that we all also, fall victim of sometimes. And so we have to really cultivate this attitude of detachment also. Shishi Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki Jai. Ma Krishna Prabhu Ki Jai. Shishi Gaurnitai Ki Jai. So we have to, first of all, attain a detachment from material objects, and then become more attached to Krishna. Because we cannot be in an empty space where we're not attached or detached. Where we're not attached to something. It's the nature of the living entity to have desires, to have attachment, to have emotions towards other living beings and things. And so we have to strengthen our attachment to Krishna. And that's very beautiful. A very beautiful example Keshav Maharshi gave in the seminar that he did in the Burn Mountains. You remember that story? He was speaking about Uddhava. And how Uddhava, once he was walking in Mathura down the street, and he saw a very special lady, very beautiful, and very charming in some way that he could not understand. We know Uddhava, he's a topmost devotee. He looks almost like Krishna. And Keshav Maharaj spoke all about that, how he's so wonderful in all his qualities. But he got attached to this lady just by seeing her. And he was wondering, why is that? How can it be? He was very, very confused. He went home and he almost cried about it. How can it be? How can I become attached? Just by seeing this lady, I'm totally disturbed. But actually, I'm only attached to Krishna. I have no other attachments in my life. Okay, I know. What is the reason? This must be Krishna. She must be Krishna. And that was the case. So, that's the purity of a pure devotee. He's out in this world and he sees something that he's attached to, he gets an attraction for, but why is it? Is it because he has some desires to fulfill his own sense enjoyment? No, it's because he sees Krishna in that. He knows that this is Krishna. So it's a very, very beautiful example of how that's the ideal, that when we go out in this world, we just see Krishna and how everything is connected, how everything is yukta vairagya, how everything is yukta with Krishna. Prabhu also yesterday at Chitananda Prabhu was speaking about this, that's the actual definition of Maya, is to not see things in connection with Krishna. Even the material things, though, they are connected to Krishna, always. It's his energy. So we have to develop that perspective. And so we have to develop that love for Krishna. And that's the definition of sadhana bhakti, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. Anybody knows the definition of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti? All that we do, what is it based on? What's the definition? Srila Rupa Goswami says, Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya, bhava sa sadhanabhida, nitya siddhasya bhavasya, prakatam vritti sadhyata. That Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya, the goal of our practice is to attain bhava bhakti. Bhava, that's the goal. Bhava meaning love for Krishna in a very exalted way. And he also says, Nitya siddhasya bhavasya, that this bhav, this love for Krishna is always there in all the living entities. It's already there. And so, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, when we use our senses to perform devotional service to Krishna, that can bring about the awakening of bhava in us. That is already there. So it's very, very beautiful. And I think it's important to be aware of that. What is our process actually? When we do devotional service, are we doing that? We're not actually doing devotional service. It's devotional service in practice. Because with this material body, we cannot serve Krishna in one sense. It becomes devotional service by the bhakti shakti. So it's from outside, it's given to us. That's how our activities become transformed into spiritual activities, in devotional activities. So it's not that, giving some food to Krishna is spiritual in itself. It becomes spiritual if we're in the right consciousness. And if we pray that Krishna empowers our activities to be filled with devotion, with bhakti. That's when it really becomes transcendental. And so I was just thinking, it's like with the wood. Wood, it is said also in the Vedic scriptures, there is fire already latent or in the wood already. But it needs a spark from outside to start burning. So in the same way, bhava, this love for Krishna, is already in us, but it gets awakened through the pure devotee. And that's also said, that, where is it? Bhakti Lata Beach, Guru Krishna Prasade Bhai Bhakti Lata Beach, that we're wandering around the universe, but when we come in contact with the pure devotee, by the mercy of Guru, the prasad of Guru, this Bhakti Lata Beach is planted in us. Meaning, although Bhakti is already there, it's becoming awakened through, Prabhupada explains, through the teachings and this pure devotee's actual guidance in our lives. That's how we become also bhaktas. And so, it's not a mechanical process. It's not that we can expect if we just, follow the process of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, of following the rules and regulations, that we become pure devotees. But we have to have the end in goal. We have to in mind. We have to know what is the actual goal. That everything we do in devotional service is about bringing out this love in our heart. And that means to awaken this longing, right? This strong desire to serve Krishna. It is also said Lolyam, right? Lolyam api mulyam ekalam. This is the only thing actually that will give us Krishna. If we just perform Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, it can go many, many lifetimes without bringing about this change of consciousness to really love Krishna. Because Krishna says, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, Aishvarya ganete shaba jagata mishrita Aishvarya shitila preme nahi mora prita. That the whole universe is filled with this Aishvarya, with people doing things out of awe and reverence, out of duty. They serve Krishna, they serve God, and they pray to Him, but out of duty. And he says, Aishvarya shitila prema nahi mora prita. But Aishvarya without prema, shitila nahi mora prita. It's not satisfying me. It's not giving me the real satisfaction that I long for. So God, He doesn't want us to just be obedient servants out of duty, but He wants our love, right? And so that's what I wanted to lead over into Janmashtami coming up, On Saturday is Janmashtami, Krishna's appearance day, and it's a very good day to reflect on this a little bit, to recommit ourselves to devotional service, to go deeper in our surrender also, right? That's what Prabhupada says here, we have to surrender, although people don't like it. But it's the best thing we can do. And with surrender, that means also to really dive into devotional service, understand what is devotional service. Because if we just follow the rules and regulations, it will not be the end-all and be-all in end-all. And I found this beautiful quote by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, where he says that actually, surrender, it sounds very imposing, but it is not. He says, do not be afraid, thinking that surrender is too hard. In order to know the absolute truth, one needs a strong heart. To learn to swim, one must not be afraid of the water. Surrender is not difficult, but easy and natural to the spirit soul. Anything opposed to surrender is miserable and unnatural. It's very distinct. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is very clear always in his words and in his style. But he's making this point that surrender is the most normal thing for a living entity. It's just that in our conditioned state we don't see it as such. But for that you need a strong heart. In Vedic terms, the heart is also sometimes being equal with chitta, with the mind. Right? So it means you need a strong mind, you need a strong focus, you need a strong direction in your life. You need a strong sankalpa, a strong, sankalpa? Decision, determination. A strong determination, you need to make some statement, a mission statement for yourself. This is my goal, this is what I want to do in life. And nothing can, deter me from that. So surrender, sometimes we think we just give up, and we do whatever is Krishna saying to me, but maybe we don't hear Krishna so much. But surrender is also a very proactive thing. It's something that we have to do. It's not just happening, but we have to take step in this direction. And that's why I think for Janmashtami it can be a very beautiful meditation to think about ways that we can surrender more. How can I become more Krishna conscious? What is the next step? And where am I at right now? And where do I want to go? And one important thing is that for this we have to, like these people at the festival, they go there and then they have this deep samskaras basically. They have these deep experiences, for them deep, where they have some glimpse of how life could be so much more happy and, there could be so much more connection between us and all that. So we also, as devotees, we need to create these strong samskaras, strong points in our spiritual life where we have deep experiences and feelings towards Krishna, towards the devotees, our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, that we can always go back to also later on. Because, devotional service, life in this material world is always also attacked with so many miseries. That's just how this material world works. We see many devotees in the past, they have been struggling with things, life situations. But my firm belief is that if we have these strong samskaras, experiences and points in our life that we can go back to, it will carry us, you know. So like if you go to the Dham and you see, let's say you go to Vrindavan, you see Radha Shyam Sundar there, and they're very beautifully dressed, and you know, there's a festival going on, and there's so much devotion, and you just see how it's so enlivening. That picture, if you picture that, you can always go back to that point. I always try to do that, you know, take a picture in my mind, and then keep it in my heart, and so I can go back. So even if I'm here in Zurich, sometimes I'm at Radhakund with my Guru Maharaj, you know, sitting there, and remembering that time when we were there, and he was just, you know, I was just chanting next to him, and he was writing, and it's just such a blissful state of mind, you know, where everything else fades away, where you can just tap into that consciousness that you had at that point. And so Janmashtami, also Krishna's appearance day, then we fast all day, we do so many activities, this and that. But we should try to be very, very conscious also that this is a very special day, and Krishna is especially merciful, giving us a special tastes and sprinkles us with mercy so we can tap into what is real Krishna consciousness. And yeah, I had more to say, but I think just to focus on that will be nice, to think about how we can surrender more to Krishna, knowing that this will actually be for our best benefit, that this is what will make us happy. And for one practice to do that, also to really try to make these samskaras happen, to have these experiences on a daily basis, but then especially on days like Janmashtami that will inspire us in our spiritual lives for long times to come. So I will end here. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have one question or comment or correction, if you think I said something wrong, please let me know.
No, I just wanted to say that fleeting bhakti, which I wasn't thinking about this term, just basically means egoistic activity. You act because you want to enjoy the fruit of the result of what you are doing.
Right. And that's the problem. That's why miseries come, because it's very... You think yourself God, basically, if you cook it up. Yeah, I also thought this is interesting that Prabhupada here calls those who perform material activities karmis, right? Sometimes it is said, you know, karmi means actually karma yogi, but it's not like that. Yeah, karmi, here it says, not knowing the value of life, karmis create situations whereby they suffer in this life and the next. So it's very clear that karmi is somebody who is doing karma, but he's not yoga, he's not connecting them with Krishna. Okay? Thank you very much. Have a very nice day in Krishna consciousness. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.